Yes, welcome everyone. We're just going to give people a moment or so to gather and we're going to get started. But we're glad you're here. Took time out of your busy Zoom calendars to come join us tonight. Welcome to everyone who's joined. You're at the Multi-Faith Online Solar Workshop for Montgomery County Homeowners, and we're going to get started in just a minute or so. We're giving people a chance to gather, get situated. As folks join, feel free to introduce yourself and share your name and your congregation in our chat box. Your chat box is at the bottom middle of your screen. For everyone who's joining, go ahead and feel free to introduce yourself and your congregation in the chat box. It's in the middle, the bottom of your screen, and we're going to get started in just a moment.
Okay, I think we're going to get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's so wonderful to see everyone checking in the chat. I have the sense of us gathering together. So I'm Joelle Novi from Interfaith Power Light. I'm here tonight with my colleague, Clara Summers, partners from Solar United Neighbors, the Montgomery County Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions, MCFACS, and we're also joined by members of the Islamic Center of Maryland, Temple Shalom, St. John Norwood, and as you can see in the chat, many other diverse congregations. Just in the last few days, we've heard that 2 different fossil fuel pipelines that we've been fighting for years won't be built. And so it's a really auspicious time to be doing everything we can to move towards a clean energy future. And I'm delighted to be gathered tonight for a workshop to learn how we who own homes in Montgomery County can go solar together through Solar United Neighbors. First, I want to invite us into really feeling that we are gathered together, which takes a little extra work on Zoom. So first of all, I just want to say this is not a virtual gathering. This is real. And the information and inspiration shared tonight will move us to real action. So we are really here and we're really together. Welcome. If you haven't yet checked in by introducing yourself in the chat and sharing your congregation, please continue to do so. And you can get a sense who else is here too. I also wanted to just offer one other tip for using Zoom in this mode. You'll see on your screen some images of the panelists, the video of the panelists, those of us who are speaking tonight. And you'll also see a slide with our logos. That is where we're going to show our slides. If you look in between the photos, the videos, and the slide, I have a little vertical bar, a little vertical white line, 2 lines. And when I put my mouse over it, it shows me that I can drag left and right. So I don't know if everyone's screen looks the same, but I want you to know that if you're someone who would like the speaker's video to be a little larger and the slide could be a little smaller, you can adjust that yourself on your Zoom screen. Finally, I find that it's a little bit hard to feel like we're in sync in Zoom, the same way we feel like we're in sync when we gather together on circles of folding chairs in our congregations. But one way to do that is to try to be a little intentional about getting our breath in sync. So if you'll humor me for just a minute, I want to invite everyone, and I know not everyone can see each other's video, but I am going to do this with my hands, and I invite you to do the same so that your hands are in their video square. And I am going to take 3 deep breaths and mark the breaths by opening and closing my hands. And I invite you to try and breathe in sync with the videos that you can see. So we'll get in sync through 3 breaths together. One last time. Thank you. Oops, I'm getting a note that some people are introducing themselves just to the panelists. So make sure to set your chat to all panelists and attendees when you introduce yourself so that all of us can see your introductions. Thank you for that. So let me just say, first of all, if you are here for concrete information about how the solar co-op works and to get specific questions about solar panel installation answered tonight, you are in the right place. This is how we will spend most of tonight's workshop, and regardless of what is going on in the slides or with the main speaker, Corey Ramsden from Solar United Neighbors is going to be reading the chat attentively all evening and responding to all of your questions throughout the evening. So wherever we are in the presentation, this is a place where you can share the things that are most important to you to make sure you get answered tonight. That said, we at IPL and locally with the Montgomery County Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions, MCFACS, think a lot about why each of our communities are called to address the climate crisis and to shift to cleaner power. So if you'll indulge us for just a few minutes, we do want to open tonight by talking as a group about what's at stake in the way we get our energy and why we each are here tonight. And as I said, as promised, a detailed presentation from Solar United Neighbors with a continuously running opportunity to ask questions in the chat box will fill the duration of our time together. We'll pause right at 7:30 to give everyone who is ready a chance to sign up for the Montgomery County Solar Co-op, and then we'll stay on the line for anyone who wishes to ask additional questions. So by way of an invocation to open tonight's gathering, we're going to hear a video testimonial from Bernie Bloom of blessed memory, in whose memory we're meeting tonight. He was a member of Temple Shalom who, with his wife Tracy, invited the whole neighborhood to help dedicate the new solar panels on his house in Chevy Chase last spring. And he spoke about why going solar was important to him.
And so the whole process from the time of the contract to the time it happened was about 6 or 7 weeks. And it was not a hassle at all. They came out and measured our roof to find out exactly how many panels they could put where. Then they have software that tells them where the shading is from the trees. So we avoided that. The amount of electricity these will produce is going to be about 95% of what we use, and it'll save us about 75% on our electric bill. The importance of us going solar is because we have grandchildren, and they have friends, and they're going to have children, and it's their future. My wife and I in our mid-70s, the panels will outlive us. So this is what we're doing for everybody, and not just Americans. We're reducing carbon. This is what we can do, and we feel a moral imperative to do it, and we did it.
All right, folks. Well, I hope that that clip gave you as much energy as it gave me. I am Clara Summers, and I work with Interfaith Power and Light. So we're going to spend most of this workshop talking about how we can save energy and shift to cleaner energy at home. But first, we need to call to mind why that work is important. Why does it matter for us to have clean electricity? So in these days that we spend so much time at home, many of us are becoming more aware of our electricity usage, but we don't always know where it's coming from. Once electricity comes in the outlets and into your laptop or tablet or phone or whatever you're using right now, that electricity is all the same, but the electricity can be made in many different ways. So go ahead, this is an interactive part, take a second to type in the chat at the bottom of your screen. What are some of the ways that we generate the electricity that we use right here in Maryland? What is powering your laptop or your phone right at this very moment? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Someone said magic. We've also got fossil fuels. Indeed, there's a lot of fossil fuels on the grid here. Wind, some wind as well. Hydroelectricity, coal and gas turbines, wind, hydro. So there are a lot of different ways that we're hearing about. Nuclear is another big one, especially in Maryland. So if we could go ahead and we've got a poll for you all. If we could go ahead and launch the poll, we're going to ask another question. What percentage of our electricity in Maryland comes from wind and solar? So go ahead and click the percentage that you think is most accurate. In a second, we're going to find out what the truth is. Go ahead and vote if you haven't already. All right. Are all the votes in? Okay. I don't know if you all can see the answer yet, but I'm going to reveal it for you momentarily. There we go. So this is how everyone voted. It looks like the plurality of votes was for 7.6%. Let's see how accurate that was. If I can move my slide forward. There we go. Okay, so a wonderful image, but a little bit more optimistic than where we're currently at. So as you can see from these charts, this breaks down the electricity. So our grid region is Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So this shows our electricity consumption, and as you can see, our biggest sources are natural gas, nuclear, and coal, which means that more than half of our electricity is coming from fossil fuels right now. And that despite really important and inspiring legislative work to increase our share of clean electricity, which is ongoing, across the region, we're currently at less than 2% when we have wind and solar combined. So looking at this chart, we have to remember that a lot of our electricity right now is still coming from fossil fuels. I'm going to kick it over to Joelle to talk a little bit more about how that fossil fuel energy comes to us.
So I think it's important to keep in mind what it means that despite our great hopes for solar and wind, the fact is that about half, or more than half of the electricity that we're getting when we plug something into an outlet in this region is made by burning fossil fuels. And the first part of that story, which I'll summarize only quickly because I think it's stuff we all kind of know, is that the extraction of natural gas is very polluting at every stage. So one way is that mountaintop removal coal mining blows mountains apart to get at small seams of coal and dumps waste rock in valley streams and causes all kinds of water pollution and air pollution for the folks who have to live around that process. We burn coal in coal-fired power plants that are disproportionately located in communities of color around the country, where they impose direct air pollution burden on the people living in the radius of those facilities, and where communities have to often deal with the impact of not one facility, but 2 and 3 polluting toxic facilities. A lot of people have heard that there's a lot of mercury in the water and it's not safe to eat certain fish, but we don't talk about the mercury's coming from burning coal for fossil fuel for electricity. Likewise, natural gas extraction. Some of you have probably heard about fracking, this incredibly intense process where chemicals are injected directly into the ground rock to try and bring up methane gas, essentially, and that where there's air pollution all along the lifespan of both the hydraulic fracturing for the gas and also pipelines, all of which leak to some degree, both causing air and water pollution. So that was a very quick summary, but there's a lot of polluting in the story of how we get fossil fuels to the point of the point of burning for combustion for electricity. But to tell the whole story about the impact of our burning fossil fuels for electricity in Maryland and continuing to use fossil fuel derived electricity, we're going to need to focus for just a few minutes on what burning fossil fuels is doing to our climate. And I know from experience that this is not a pleasant topic, and even I as a climate activist try to avoid it and not think about it. So that's why we have to really make time and space and say, I would like to ask everyone here to just spend the next 3 minutes. We won't talk for very long about it, but just spend a few minutes just remembering, calling to mind in this space, what is at stake for our climate if we continue to use electricity made by burning fossil fuels.
Okay. So the electricity sector is our country's single greatest source of heat trapping gases that are causing global climate change. And what you see in front of you is a graph of global average temperature. The red line is the global average temperature. And as we have all learned in math class about lines, that line is going up, it's not flat. So those of us who are under 44 have never experienced a year of below average temperature, below global average temperature. And I'm going to date myself. I was born in the 90s, so I have never lived my life below that red line. My life has been defined by climate change. And the only explanation for why this is happening, 97% of scientists agree, and 7 in 10 Americans understand, is that our burning fossil fuels for electricity is pouring heat trapping climate pollution into our atmosphere, which causes our Earth to warm.
I am married to a math teacher, middle school math teacher, who teaches algebra to 7th graders, and he has impressed upon me the importance of slope. It's not just important that a line is going up, it matters how fast. And that's why this second graph is actually scarier to me than the first one. So Clara just showed us in the previous slide that our global average temperature, despite having some natural variability, is trending up dramatically over the last 150 years. But we tend to assume as people that things happen on a straight line. So, okay, we've had 135 years to get used to this, slightly more than 1 degree change in our temperature as an Earth. We're on the red line, and we'll have another 135 years to get used to a similar level of rate of change. But here we can see over the 100-year average is that green line, and the 50-year average is that purple line, and it feels like you can't look at this and think that we're on the red line. There is an acceleration to how quickly our Earth is getting warmer as a result of burning fossil fuels that are trapping heat in our atmosphere. So, so we may be leaving behind not just the temperature of the past, but the rate at which we've ever experienced our Earth's temperature to change before. Next slide. So this is the part that gets really hard to stay with it because it's upsetting and scary, but I think it's important to call to mind in this space before we set about the project of going solar in our homes, just what's at stake? Like why does this matter? What are some of the things you've heard could happen if we don't do anything about this? If we continue to burn fossil fuels, gas and coal and oil for our electricity and continue to pour heat trapping climate pollution into our atmosphere, causing our Earth to warm. And I invite folks in the chat to just name in a few words some of the things you've heard could happen so that we can hear from each other. So one person said extreme weather. Sorry, people are welcome to chat to everybody, but I'm seeing some chats to the panelists. We can't say that any one storm or drought or heat wave was due to climate change, but we know that by warming our Earth and warming the ocean as much as we have, we are loading the dice against ourselves for extreme weather. Likewise with forest fires. There might have been some forest fires otherwise, but hot, dry weather makes it worse or makes it more likely. Flooding. So land-based ice at the poles could melt, raising sea levels around the world. It's one thing to think about the impact that would have on our East Coast where we all live. And then important to remember how many very poor people live very close to sea level all around the world. We talked about stronger storms. We depend on a stable climate to grow our food. And even those of us who don't grow our own food, it's, we depend on the parts of the country that have always been good to grow grain or fruit to continue to be good for those same crops. And what we're seeing, anyone who gardens and sees that map on the back of the seed packet that shows the right place and time to grow different plants, that whole map has shifted north as we are across the northern hemisphere, as we are changing the climate of the places where we need to grow food. And a lot of people around the world are subsistence farmers and count on being able to bring forth the food they need every year from the seeds they saved from the previous year. And imagine how scary it is to be a farmer in Malawi or Uganda who's trying to, planting the seeds at the time your grandmother said was the right time, and it's not working anymore because something has changed about the climate. People talked about there are two things I'm seeing in the chat. One is about extinction, of animals, and plants. So a lot of plants and animals might not be able to rapidly adapt fast enough in a rapidly warming climate to survive as species. It's kind of hard to take into your heart the scale of that. People are talking about, a third or half of all plants and animals might not be able to adapt fast enough in a rapidly warming climate. Bill McKibben is a writer and activist on climate issues. He says we are running Genesis in reverse because we are this generation that is witnessing the uncreation of so many species. Hotter temperature means a lot more air pollution, even down on the ground, that's for sure. Somebody's talking about ocean acidification. So there's a lot of scary changes to the pH even of the ocean that is caused by the changes in the climate that are having really severe impacts on the ocean. And actually, global warming is having even a more dramatic impact on ocean life than it is in the atmosphere because the changes in temperature are more dramatic in the water, the amount of heat. The one thing I'll end with quickly is thinking about mosquito-borne disease. So there's only, there's certain diseases like malaria, dengue fever, West Nile that are caused by mosquitoes. And around the world, cold winter temperatures used to help contain the spread of those diseases. But now, as with warmer temperatures, we're seeing that those are more of a problem. Those diseases are more of a problem than they used to be. And that's where the real injustice of the way climate change is playing out really gets revealed to me. Because if you think about the parts of the world where malaria or dengue fever are the biggest problem, it's precisely the parts of the world that did the least to cause this climate pollution, that benefited the least from industrialization, that burned the fewest fossil fuels historically. So I'll end there. Bill McKibben, again, talks about being in Dhaka, Bangladesh during an outbreak of dengue fever and walking through a hospital where people are in every bed, shivering away. And he said, the epidemiology isn't perfect, but the moral math works for me. We in this country produce 25% of the world's carbon pollution. If there are 100 beds in that hospital, 25 of them are on us. Really inviting all of us to take personal responsibility for the consequences that our country's burning fossil fuels is having on the climate around the world. Okay, let's move off the scary slide and take a deep breath. But we're going to end this section before we go into taking, planning how we're going to go solar at home. I just want to make sure we keep in mind what we just talked about. What was the piece of that we talked about where you really felt moved and you thought, I don't want to see that. I want to take action. We have a real difficulty in this country talking about climate change. Many of us are worried about it, but if you ask the people who are very worried about climate change, have you talked to anyone in your family or in your community in the last few months about this issue? They say no. So it's called the spiral of climate silence. There's a kind of difficulty we have, and when we don't talk about it, our friends don't think we care about it, and vice versa. So we all need to practice getting clear for ourselves and being ready to talk to our neighbors and friends about why does climate change matter to you. We're not gonna be able to turn to our neighbor in folding chairs the way I usually do in churches and congregations to ask this question, but I do want to give backslide. I do want to invite everyone to just sit for a minute with this question. Why does climate change matter to you? And how for you is that connected to this effort we're going to undertake tonight to shift to cleaner power? At Interfaith Power and Light, we're often, in addition to thinking about what's in our own hearts about why we care about this, we are grounding ourselves in the teachings and traditions of our faith community, our faith traditions and scriptures, to kind of ground ourselves in responding, thinking about what it might look like to respond in a faithful way to the challenge of the climate crisis. But I will say, as we get ready to move into the rest of our presentation, that over and over again, thinking about the energy we use at home is an incredibly powerful way to connect directly to the crisis of climate change and feel that we're taking steps to be part of the solution. So it's been incredibly inspiring and meaningful to me to work with Solar United Neighbors over many years in their incredibly empowering work of helping folks go solar with their neighbors. And with that, I'm going to turn over our presentation to Kimberly.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, and thank you all for joining us. And Joelle, and Clara, that was a very, very powerful presentation. And it just makes you really think about, no matter where we live on the planet, somewhere we're all suffering from some type of climate change. And I heard Clara say that she was dating herself in that presentation, and I'm going to date myself even more. So I'm a little older, and I do not remember weather as crazy or sporadic as it is. I mean, it used to be a time we actually could tell the seasons. Now I think we just have weather, because one day it's hot, the next day it's cold, the next day we just don't know. And so I truly believe that that has an effect, it directly coming from, the changes in our climate, as well as I look at it from a health perspective, because I live in an urban community, and they talk about how pollution and air quality being affected through climate change is one of the reasons why people have a lot of respiratory issues, like asthma, COPD, and a lot of these other things. Now, I have asthma. Just about everybody in my family, my immediate family, has asthma. And I acquired asthma. I was not born with it as a child. I didn't have it as a young adult. I acquired asthma when I was in my 30s, and I still have asthma to this day. My sister has it. 2 of my grandchildren were born with respiratory problems. So I look at it from a health perspective. So let's get into the presentation and how it is that you can actually go solar. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me go to a slideshow. Slideshow. Now I had this all queued up. Now what happened? Can you all see my screen?
We can, but it's still in slide mode, just in regular mode, so, and not the presenter view.
Okay. Is it? Can you see it now?
We can see it. It's just not in presenter view.
Okay, let me start
Now
over.
it's done.
Okay. Okay. Now you can see it, right?
No.
Still can't see it?
I think you went off screen share.
Here we go with technology.
So many moving parts.
Please forgive me. Okay, share screen. I always have this issue.
I'm going to remind people that if you have any questions throughout, feel free to put them in the chat.
I don't know why this is not coming up. Can you see it now?
No.
No.
Sometimes I need to double click on share screen.
I can't get it to share for whatever reason.
Kimberly, would you like me to open it up from here and do the presentation? I just need to know where you've saved it.
Actually, I had it on it's on my laptop. Okay, wait a minute. Got it. Now can you see
We see it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go from beginning. Okay. Now you can see it, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yay! Power of technology. By the time this is over, we will be experts at Zoom. So Solar United Neighbors is a nonprofit, and we are based in about 13 states nationally. Our headquarter office is in DC, and I am the Maryland Program Director, and I am based in Baltimore, Maryland. Solar United Neighbors is a community of people building a new energy system with rooftop solar at the cornerstone. We help people go solar, join together, and fight for their energy rights. Now, this is just talking about or showing you a little bit how solar works. So the 3 panels that you see is what they call a solar array. The solar array produces and gets energy from the sun. And then that energy is tied into, right here, we see number 2, into a converter. The converter converts it from direct current to, AC current. And then that electricity goes into your electric panel. Most of your electric panel is located somewhere in your house, usually in your basement or somewhere maybe in your kitchen. And then that power that's being produced goes out to the grid to your utility provider. So some of you may be based in BGE territory or Pepco territory or Edison, somewhere in Maryland. And the solar panels are mounted on the roof. So this is an actual picture of my house. So I actually have solar. And so I have about 4 kilowatts of solar. So I'm not just talking about it. I actually believe in this process. And I went solar maybe about 2 years ago. And I think it was one of the best decisions that I made. Now, this part, you'll talk a little bit about the solar technology and the terminology of kilowatts and kilowatt hours. So this is how the system is. So this is about a 3 kilowatt solar panel array, and it uses, each panel is about 250 watts. Now, kilowatts is the measure of your system size and the location of your system. Your system can be measured in either between 2 kilowatts and 12 kilowatts. Anything over 12 kilowatts is usually going towards the commercial industry. 2 kilowatt system is usually the minimum system that most installers like, or I would say will install a system on your roof. And once again, here's a picture of mine. It's a 4 kilowatt system. So I have about 16 panels. I have 8 on each side. Now, when we talked earlier about the solar array, this is how the solar panels are mounted on your roof. You attach the solar panels to the roof through a racking system. The racking system, you attach the panel beams where screws and clips and metal beams are attached to the roof through a number of different ways using flashings. They penetrate the roof to make sure that you have, but the flashing, you see the right here through the mounting system, that is also a mechanism so that you don't get leaks or water in your roof from the nailing and them penetrating your roof. And also this part right here, as I showed you the, so let me go to the next one. Like this is a flat panel, what they call a flat roof. So if you saw, I had a pitch roof, but my neighbors have a flat roof. And with that, when I had my solar installed, they used the access to the flat roof in order to put the panels on the side that was connected on the other pitch of my home. And when you are installing the solar panels on a flat roof, they mounted to what they call parapets. So say, for instance, the 2 connecting houses that are not attached to my house, if one of them wanted solar, then they would attach it on the parapet wall. These are the 2 walls that join the 2 houses together on a flat roof, if you can just, picture that. And it's good to know what the racking systems will look like. And these are some of the questions you can ask your solar installer as well about the racking system and how it is that they plan to design your system on your roof. Oops. So as I stated before, what makes good for solar? What makes good for solar? You want as much sunlight as you can possibly get. The ideal direction for a solar roof is true south, because you get most of your sun from true south. However, you can also do west and east. You just may not get as much sun, but you still can get solar. And one of the things that may stop you or hinder you from getting solar could be you have a lot of trees. You have a lot of shading. Some places in Montgomery County have a lot of trees, and we do not want you to cut down trees in order to go solar. So we have a remedy for that as well, and I'll talk about that shortly. Now, community solar. community solar is how you can get the benefits of solar without having solar on your roof. Now, through Solar United Neighbors, if you go onto our website, we have a platform that you can look at how you can subscribe to community solar if you can't physically get rooftop solar. Now, the way that this works is it's called community solar, or some places call it shared community solar. And so say, for instance, you are the Smith family or the corner store or the elementary school. Now you buy shares into the community solar project, and it's based off the amount of energy that you use. So each household will be different. Each industry or each person who is a subscriber in the community solar project will have a different amount of shares that they can purchase. So you know that the Smith family is not using as much solar or as much energy as in the elementary school. And the elementary school is probably using a lot more energy than the corner store, than the corner store. So with that being said, each one of them will have a different amount of shares that they can purchase, which will be like a credit onto the electricity bill. And if you go on our website, Solar United Neighbors, and you put in the search engine community solar, and a lot more information will come up on that. But that's the way that you can still participate even if you can't get rooftop solar. Oops. Now, another thing that you may hear or people may think about, like, what happens if the power goes out? Now, because you are still tied to the grid, if the grid goes down or if the power goes out, then your solar goes out. Because as I stated earlier, is that the energy that you produce from your solar panel goes to the grid. So when the grid is out, then you don't generate any, you're not generating or getting any electricity from it. Not unless you have a battery backup that will kick in when you have an outage. Now, we'll talk, a lot of installers now are offering battery backup. So if it's something that you're interested in, you can talk more to a solar installer provider about battery backups. But battery backups are very, very expensive. However, just like solar used to be very expensive, and because of the demand, the cost is coming down. It's the same that's working with the solar technology. The more people are getting interested in it, the more the technology is growing, and the prices will be coming down, but now they are quite expensive. However, if you have the resources, and it works for you, then it's something that you can look into. Net metering, this is another terminology that you may hear. Now, net metering allows the flow of electricity to and from the customer. So that means that your meter spins backwards and forwards. So when it's spinning backwards, then you are sending your excess energy that your solar is producing back to the grid to be distributed to your neighbors or whomever else. Now, when you generate extra electricity flow back through your meter, you can receive a credit on your bill. And over 12 months, if you have even more excess to be produced at the end of the year, then you might get a small check. Now, this is not always the case, but it can be the case. And I can just tell you, since I've had solar for 2 years, I have gotten not just the solar credits, but I received like 2 checks. One was for $80, and I think the other was for $90. I don't know about you, but I have never, ever gotten a check from my utility company. I usually get something every month, and it's called a bill that they want you to pay, and they want you to pay it on time, because if not, you will suffer the consequences for it. So any kind of refund or money or any kind of savings that comes from the utility company, I just say thank you, thank you, thank you, because it can't get any better than that. And one of the other things that we are offering through this, through the Montgomery Co-op, is EV charging as a part of the co-op. And this is another thing that's getting very, very popular because a lot more people are starting to buy electric cars. And so when you join a co-op, through this co-op, you can either get solar and the EV charging, or you can just get solar, or you can just get EV. We are not going to strong arm you and make you get both. You can choose whichever one fits for you. And if you think that you may want to get an electric charge in the future, and if you can, why not just go ahead and get the charger installed now? And then once you get the electric car, you don't have to worry about it. I think I'm not sure if it's in Rockville, or I'm not sure what county. I know it's in Montgomery County, but I'm not sure. I think they just turned a gas station into a full EV charging. It's in Montgomery County, but I'm not sure if it's in Rockville or somewhere else, Tacoma Park. But I think that's very interesting that a former gas station turned all of his pumps into an electric charger. I've never heard of that. However, I would like to see more of it because I think it's just a way that we can contribute more to how we reduce our carbon footprint. So this is just about some solar economics. Now, this is just giving you a base scenario of what it could look like if you had solar. So as I stated, I have a 4 kilowatt system. The average pricing is about $2.40 a watt. This year you get 26% federal tax credit, and that is going to be reduced next year to 22%. And then after that, the tax credit goes away if it's not going to be renewed. So who knows where that is. So this is another advantage and another reason to join the co-op is because if you can get a tax break and an incentive from the federal government at 26%, and it's going to be reduced next year to 22%, and then it's going to phase out. A lot of people won't have the opportunity to take advantage of this. So if you do it in the next 2 years or so, knowing that energy prices usually go up about 2% every year, then why not take advantage of it now? You know, also because you live in Maryland, Maryland would give you a clean energy grant, which is about $1,000. It is $1,000. So say, for instance, you had a 4 kilowatt that cost you about $9,600 with after all the rebates and incentives that you get, it brings it down to about a net cost of $6,100. Then on top of that, you get what they call solar RECs. This is solar renewable energy credits that you also get, and these are estimated annually. And each market is different. So DC market solar credits are different from Maryland. However, it's still a credit that you can take advantage of. And then when you look at the estimated savings, is about $750 for a 4 kilowatt. And over 10 years is $7,850. That's a lot of money. I'm just thinking about what I could do with $7,850 over 10 years. I could put it in my IRA, do something with my grandchildren. I have a whole lot of plans for $7,850. And just think about over 25 years, you will be saving $22,100. So your net profit is about $16,000. I don't know about you, but it just sounds like something that is very, very beneficial for doing a couple of things: getting solar and saving the planet and looking into clean energy.
Hey, Kimberly.
Yes.
Before you go on, just one thing that I've found in the past for, especially for near jurisdictions in Montgomery County, is that Maryland Clean Energy Grant. It is sometimes not available for folks who are in a historic area. The rules have changed a little bit over time. It's not something you'll know ahead of time, so we recommend everyone apply for it. Your installer will help you with that. But if you live someplace where it might be in a historic zone, the Maryland Energy Administration may deny the grant. We have seen that in the past. Most of the time, not a problem, but we just want to make sure folks are aware of that. And that grant is taxable, so that's something that you also want to be aware of.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Corey, for that FYI, that's good information to know. Thank you, Corey. Corey is my tag teamer at Solar United Neighbors. We have a team that is very, very diverse in all different aspects of solar. So if I don't have the answer or know the answer to some of the questions, or Corey or Emily or somebody else on our team can, I'm quite sure we can answer the question or find someone that can answer the question for you. So with that being said, also talking about some of these solar economics this is my actual energy production report. So this is my report that I got in May. Now, and it breaks it down, like it actually breaks it down how many kilowatts I use every week in the month of May. So you can also look at where your energy may be going up and down and how you can reduce it. So I'm the parent that goes around the house and says, why are all these lights on? Turn these lights off. You know, I try to wash clothes when the energy demand is not as high, right? So it's usually at night when most people are asleep or not using as much energy. So I don't have as many lights on at night. So I like to wash clothes when? At night. So just little things, you know, like that. And especially now in the summertime, people have heating systems, they have air conditioning. Those kind of things produce a lot more energy. So with my home, just over from year to date, I have used 1.28 megawatts. That's a lot of energy. At the same time, I have reduced my carbon footprint by 599 pounds. And I have saved 7 trees. So, and I get this report every month. It tells me all of my energy production. It tells me how much from year to date. And believe it or not, the best thing I like to see is how many trees I saved. So I can go outside and say, I saved some trees, you know. So that's a good thing. That I like that. That excites me. So now here is where we get to the magic. The magic of signing up and going and becoming a part of the co-op. And we need your help to tell your friends, tell your neighbors, your family, be a part of our listserv, look at our social media, and do what you're doing now. Attend some of our info sessions, visit our website, and visit some more webinars and share it with people and let them know what it is that we do and how we do it. Now, the deadline for this co-op to sign up is August the 31st. And so you are basically on this website, doing this webinar because we want as many people to sign up and to become a part of co-op, especially before the end of the campaign ends at the end of August. So one of the things that we also do is that we assist the co-op members in getting getting them bids from different installers. Now we put out our RFP, I believe it was July. No, it was June 9th. We put out an RFP. So we got back about 7 bids. Now, when we put out the RFP, what we do is when we get the bids and everything, we actually develop a spreadsheet and we put each installer and the pricing. We look at the upgrades that they offer. We look at the warranties. We even go as far as doing the referrals. So we ask that each installer give us at least 3 referrals, and we actually call it referrals, and we ask them, what was your experience like? How, you know, how did they answer questions? Were they responsive? And so we've had good success with most of just about all the installers that I called and got referrals from. They had some pretty good representation and were pretty reputable. With that, we also look at, because we're doing EV charging, if they actually provide EV charging services, because some installers do and some installers are not as familiar with it. So that's another question that we also asked in the RFP. Now, once you do that and you sign up, you go through the whole process, and we have a committee, a co-op committee. So we put out a email, and we ask for people to become a part of the committee. So we as Solar United Neighbors, we don't choose the installer. We allow the committee, the co-op committee, to choose the installer for the co-op, because it just takes a lot of the research and navigating all these different things and trying to figure out how to do it. So that's why we provide as much information as we can from each installer so that they can make the best decision on behalf of the co-op. Now, once you do all of that and they select the installer, we do a pricing and everything, and we let the committee know, we let all the whole co-op know who the committee chose as the installer. And now up until this point, you are not committed to do anything until you actually sign a contract with the installer. And once you do that and all of that is done and the co-op closes, then we have a big celebration and a party. Now, because of COVID and we're doing everything virtually, we don't know what that party is going to look like now. But I can tell you it's going to be something really, really nice. Now, with that being said, all of these services that we provide are absolutely free. And I don't know about you, but anything that says free, you can't get no better than free. I don't know anything that's better than free. And if somebody can tell me what is better than free, then I'm all ears.
Kimberly, can you let us know where we are for Montgomery County in this process?
Well, Montgomery County, they just had the selection committee selected a bidder, RFP and installer last Thursday. The committee came together, selected a installer. The installer, we won't announce who the winning installer, until all the documentation and everything is signed. And once we get all the bells and whistles signed and all the documentation together, then we will put out an email to let the co-op members know who was the winning installer and all the details of what they need to do in order to move forward and what the next steps are. So that's where we are. And so far in this co-op, I believe we have about 80, I think the last time I checked was about 86, maybe 88 people that have signed up, which is absolutely great. And I think that is a phenomenal number. We're trying to hit 200, so the closest that we can get to 200. But I think for us to be doing this during a pandemic, 86 members is a lot, and it's great. Now, also dealing with the solar economics, different ways of financing. Now, cash is always king. So if you have the cash to pay for your system, then that's a great thing. However, some people may not have the cash, so you may want to look at financing through loans. Now, Montgomery County Green Bank has an excellent loan offering. And if you go on their website, Montgomery County Green Bank, you can just Google it. They have a lot of information on working with Montgomery County, and especially through this co-op. And if you also go on our YouTube channel, there is actually a Montgomery County Green Bank presentation, informational session that we did on how to finance your solar system. Or you can do a standard loan, you can do what they call a construction loan or a home energy line of credit. And another way that you can also do it is third-party ownership. That's leasing or power purchasing agreement. Now, when you lease or have a power purchasing agreement, you don't actually own the panels, It's like you're leasing it, like you lease a car. However, you still get the benefit of all the solar energy usage that you have. So you're still saving money. Now, I actually did a power purchasing agreement because it was the best choice for me. And I'm still receiving the reduction in my energy costs. And my energy cost has probably gone down for my household is about maybe 30 to 40%. And I'm just like, it took a while because, your solar array has to, when I got mine it was like in October. So because it was during the winter and we didn't, you don't have as much sun, it took like a while for it to really start to show on my energy bill. But when it started showing, I've just been elated, saving 30 to 40% off of my energy bill, along with getting the little $80 and $90 checks that I got. Was just like, I was in heaven. So I know that for a lot of people in this webinar, if you just think about how and you get going solar can just benefit the earth, the planet, yourselves, and all of these things that come together. I know for sure that Bernie is looking down and just saying, thank you. Bernie from heaven, was talking about his grandkids. And, this is because we all believe we have faith, right? That we're not going to live forever. So we have to leave this planet to our children and our grandchildren. And what better contribution to give to them is a healthy earth, and also show them how to be sustainable. So you become a role model. You get solar, they get solar when they move into their homes and move out on their own. So that's just some of the things that I think about. So what's next? Joining the Montgomery County, joining the co-op. Now I'm going to stop sharing. And Joelle, what we can do is for them, if they would like, they can take, if some of them haven't already done so, is we can share the actual website and what it looks like for them to join.
Yeah, I'm going to put if somebody else actually, so I can keep talking, if somebody else can put the link with the link we'd like you to use tonight to sign up is the one that Corey just put in the chat. And this is the moment. If you've been hearing enough that you feel like this is something you want to be part of, you would like Solar United Neighbors to evaluate whether your roof is a good fit for solar and whether you'd like to hop on board this open Montgomery County co-op, and now that the winning installer has been selected, and find out what the offer would look like for your home and possibly an EV charger if you want one. We're going to have a little moment. We're going to call it the offertory, a moment where we all click on this link in your chat and take a minute, if you want to click join the co-op and fill out your information. Okay, welcome back. So this marks the official conclusion of our time together, but we are going to stay on the line. We know folks may have additional questions. We can keep chatting. There's been lots of great questions in the chat. But to anyone who needs to hop off now, just a tremendous gratitude for gathering together tonight. Feel free to stay in touch. And we're excited to go solar with a lot of you. Thanks so much. And I guess, Corey, do you want to field any questions that would be worth discussing live?
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. And if folks want to raise their hand, I see one person is, I can unmute you to ask your question if we want to, now that the presentation's over. I see Hubert Kim has his hand raised, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Hubert, if you want to ask away.
Hey guys, so if we do solar, like solar on the roof, what's the evaluation of whether you can have solar installed or not? Because we have a lot of trees over our house. That's where I was not sure whether I'm.
Yep, that's a great question. When you so when you join the co-op, one thing we'll do right up front, and that's my team that Kimberly mentioned, is we'll just take a quick look at your roof from satellite imagery and see if it looks like it might be a good fit. It's not the final word, but if you do have a lot of shading, we're probably going to send you a message to make sure you know that we wouldn't recommend solar in your case. If you do get one of those messages from us and something has changed about your property recently, a tree fell down or you've done some other work, definitely let us know and we can talk about that. But we'll do a quick check when you join. The installer will also do that when they create your proposal, and they'll do a more evaluated version with their tools and be able to give you a better sense of what can fit up there and how much energy it's going to generate.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hannah Weisberger, I'm gonna unmute you. Oh, looks like you lowered your hand there. Anybody else, feel free to raise your hand and I will unmute you so you can ask.
One of our questions in the chat is about being in a historical district in Maryland, and that comes up a fair amount. I know there have been some laws that prevent the degree to which at least neighborhood associations can be an obstacle. So I wonder if you could speak to some of those considerations.
Yeah, so there are sort of three separate pieces to that I'll cover, and they're all sort of related. One is homeowners association. So if you're someplace that has a homeowners association, that you do want to just check with them ahead of time and make sure you understand the process. Most of the time, they're going to be supportive or neutral, and should be able to tell you how to go about that. If you are uncertain about their likelihood to support it, or you get some roadblocks, definitely let us know, because there is a law in Maryland that prevents sort of unreasonable restrictions on solar. But generally speaking, in the state, we don't see a lot of resistance there. The second thing is, if you're in a historic district, there will likely be an extra review step that the installer will cover for you when they go through the permitting process. And there may be some additional restrictions as far as placement of the modules. That's going to depend on the historic district. A lot of time it's that they're not visible from the street, but that's going to vary. Installer will work that through with you. And then, as I mentioned earlier, for the clean energy grant, if you're in a historic district, there may be a chance that you don't get that $1,000 grant. I believe they amended it recently in the last year or two to make sure that it was clear that if you were not a historic property, that you could, even if you were in a historic district. But I don't have sort of full understanding of whether or not that's actually changed some of those decisions. So as I mentioned earlier, installers should definitely apply for you. Just be aware, either you may have to appeal it if you get rejected. But in most cases, we haven't seen that as a problem for people. But we just want to make sure people know that that's a possibility. Let's see here. I'm going to raise Jane Houlihan. You've got a question here, and I'm going to read some chat questions while that's going on. So I'm going to allow you to talk, Jane. Go right ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thanks. And thanks for the presentation. It's so informative. My question is about the timeline. Like we're in July right now, and if we decide to do this, when could we expect to have a system on our roof and up and running?
So that depends to some degree on the installer's capacity. This installer, from our experience and knowledge of them, has a pretty good size sales staff. So they should be able to get people proposals relatively quickly. When they start that, they're going to go sort of in the order that people join the group, but how quickly you respond and get work with them will certainly determine how fast you get a proposal. Generally speaking, if you have by the time you have a proposal, from the time you sign it until the time the system is fully installed is about 3 to 5 months. Depends a little bit on, some parts of your installation, if you're in a historic district, things like that. But roughly speaking, 3 to 5 months from the time you sign the contract until the utility company says, yeah, you can go ahead and turn your system on. So part of that depends on how quickly you get a proposal, and then obviously how long it takes for you to decide and get your financing together.
And
Okay,
also we're trying to have all of the installations done by December the 31st, so that people can take advantage of the federal tax credit as well.
Yeah, so keep in mind what Kimberly just said, the tax credit next year will be 22% instead of 26%. So it does drop down, and that's for systems that are placed in service by the end of the year, which means they're able to be turned on and the utility says yes. Okay, let's see who else. Like, looks like you also have a question. I'm gonna allow you to go ahead and ask your question here. Go right ahead. Hope I said your name right. I apologize if not.
That's fine. This is my question was very similar to one in the chat room as well. How do I know if I'll benefit from having a 8K watt system as opposed to a 4K watt system? So
yeah, so this is going to depend on, there's three things that will determine the proposal that you're going to get from the installer. One is how much space you have in your roof. So that's just a physical limiting factor unless you can put it on the ground. Two is how much energy you're using, which is how much you're trying to offset by the solar. And then the three is your budget, which is something that you can control as well. So that system for your roof is going to be totally customized for what you'd like to do, and that's something you want to talk through with your installer. You don't have to cover 100% for the system to have a good economic impact, because it's essentially proportional. So as long as you don't have a really tiny system where it might cost more, because smaller systems occasionally have a little bit of an extra cost. Generally speaking, from like 3 kilowatts and up, if you have less than a full 100% coverage of your system, it's still going to give you good economic impact. So that's you got a lot of flexibility there.
Oh, thanks.
Because a couple folks have asked about this, I want to just explicitly say that when Kimberly showed us a slide with an example of how the math works for a 4 kilowatt system and an 8 kilowatt system, those were simply examples. The winning installer in the Montgomery County Co-op, what they offered was a price per kilowatt installed for every member of the group, and then they will make a custom proposal for your house with the size of system that they suggest is best for you. So you're not choosing between two sizes. The sizes, those were just examples on that slide.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
You did. Thanks for clarifying.
You did. And also to note is that the $2.40 kilowatt was also an example. So one of the reasons and the benefits of the co-op is like bulk purchasing. So think about it like when you go to Costco or BG, you get the best price when you buy in bulk. So that's one of the advantages. When we go to the installer, we say, hey, listen, we have 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 people in this co-op. We need for you to give us the best price and the best offer that you can get, so that we can get, because we're bringing you so many clients and so many customers.
I also see you have a question from Hannah, but she put one in the chat too. So Hannah, I'm going to unmute you here, but you asked what was next now that you're in the co-op, so I can go ahead and answer that. And if you have other questions, ask away. So once you're in the group and we've taken a look at your roof, the next step, once that paperwork gets finalized that Kimberly mentioned, is that you're going to get some information from us talking about the offering that the installer put together. That'll give you some background info before they come, and that'll explain the equipment and the pricing and all of that. And then they're going to schedule an appointment with you. Usually they'll request that all decision makers be on site at the same time. Just makes it easier for everybody. You'll sit down with them and review their proposal, and you can change it and adjust it based on what you'd like. And the order they go through, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to sort of work through the list in order of who came in. But when you get that contact from them, absolutely, the quicker you respond, the more likely you're going to get on the schedule and get a proposal from them. So hopefully that answers your question, but if not, feel free to clarify or ask something else. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and.
Wait.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Go right ahead. We can hear you.
I forgot to unmute myself, so I was talking and I was muted.
No problem.
Oh no, what I wanted to ask, I became a member, but does it mean now that I'm in the group? I didn't know. Besides becoming a member, I didn't do anything else.
Let me, while we're talking here, I should be able to look this up for you. Let's see if we can locate you in the system.
Thank you that I'm a member, but that's it. I didn't know what else to do.
Okay, did you just filled the form out tonight while we were here during the meeting?
Yes, I did, because I believe
Got
in
it.
it. You don't have to convince me. I do. And I became a member, and I totally believe in the whole concept. It's not that yeah, I just wanted to know what else I need to do. And yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. And if I have more questions, who do I ask? If right now I cannot think about everything because I'm a little bit corona mushy. I'm tired.
That I know what you mean. I'm in a room with no air conditioning and been here all day, so I definitely feel that. So to answer your question specifically, when you join the group tonight, that thank you page is just to make sure that you know we got the information. We're gonna in the next day or two, our team is gonna look at your roof, and you'll get an email from us.
Oh, okay.
That it looks good.
I can tell you that in my neighborhood, there is a home association. And I live near a forest, but there are other houses that have a solar system. So my feeling is that it should be okay. I don't know if it's not, I think maybe it's south, or I don't know very well about it. But okay, I just wanted to know what's going on. Okay, great.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so look for our email in the next day or two, and I put in the chat box there. You'll see our email address, which is mdteam@solarunitedneighbors.org. Any questions at all, send it there. Kimberly will see it, and the rest of our staff will see it. We're happy to answer solar questions.
Where did you put it, you said, on the chart?
Yeah, it's mdteam, mdteam.
MD, let me just write it, MD.
Team, yeah, TEAM. mdteam@solarunitedneighbors.org.
Okay, okay, great.
Thanks so much, Hannah. Thanks for joining.
By the way, United Neighbors, and then what?
.org, O-R-G.
Okay, I just needed to know the end.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Any other questions come in on the chat that I missed there?
About the efficiency of panels and how much they've improved. And I took a stab at all of these, but would appreciate your your support. So my sense is that the efficiency of the panels has improved dramatically since like the 70s, but that because of the federal incentives, we should still go ahead and go solar this year as opposed to next year.
Yeah, year over year, it is a steady increase. There aren't sort of like giant jumps in efficiency for the most part. The decision what's driving the decision is sort of the opportunity cost of not installing solar now and starting to generate cheaper electricity, as well as Joel mentioned the tax credits, which are sort of starting to go down over time. And the same is true for the SRECs to be on the Maryland side, that those credits, solar renewable energy credits, there's a green value to the electricity that you're selling whenever you generate a certain number of kilowatt hours. 1,000 kilowatt hours equals 1 credit. So that 4 kilowatt system is going to generate roughly 4 to 5 credits a year. Each one of those has a value. You'd select a broker that will sell that for you. We can certainly help you with that later. No need to worry about the details on that now. But the value of those credits is also sort of set to go down slowly over time. It's an incentive to encourage more solar that is built in the state, and that's a state policy. So that's another reason to act now and not later. Any other questions? I don't see any other hands raised, but we're available for anything else any folks want to ask.
My friend Gideon is raising his hand.
Oh, I was scrolled down to the bottom there. Okay, Gideon, I'm gonna unmute you now. Go right ahead.
Hi, looking through it, it looks like the installer has already been picked out. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we're in the middle of getting the paperwork together now. So Kimberly mentioned earlier, we're once we get all the documents signed, we'll go ahead and announce who the installer was.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like Hubert, you've also got a question. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
Yep, I was just asking you about the EV charger installation. Can you talk a little bit about that process and how that works?
Yeah, so this is somewhat newer for us, but the EV charger, we've included these in several of our co-ops where we're actually open to anybody who can join the group, either if they want to install an EV charger or both. So if you just want an EV charger, that's totally fine as well. The installer would come and provide a proposal for you to install a level 2 EV charger. So it's not the sort of the standard wall outlet plug that you might get with your car, but a 240 volt charge, which goes faster. It's not the superchargers you would see on a highway rest station, but it is definitely a faster form of charging, and that's what's being offered in this group. They would the cost is going to vary based on equipment and also how far that charger is from where your electrical panel is and what kind of service you have in your house. So the conditions vary a little bit based on where you are, but that's something that you can take advantage of either with or without going solar with the group. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does. Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm. All right, looks like we got lots of new signups. Any other questions? Anything else that folks would like to know from any of us? I think we had one other piece of information, if I remember, Clara and Joelle, that while I was answering questions, I didn't put in the chat box, but I do want to make sure that that's in there for folks.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We did that early on. I'm curious about there was a price per kilowatt installed listed in the price example.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the actual winning proposal?
No.
No, that's an average. I believe it's below that price, if I remember.
It is. Yeah, it's below that.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting. People hanging out. Do they want to ask any questions?
One other fun fact for folks, we're talking about the tax credit. The tax credit is non-refundable. So what does that mean? That means that you have to have tax liability to use it. Most people in the county who are going solar probably have at least one person who's earning an income or a salary. So that's going to be no problem. If you're on fixed income or you're retired, you can take that tax credit over multiple years in chunks. But just keep in mind, you need to be able to have some tax liability, some bill that credit offsets. In other words, it can't go negative and they just give you a check. You have to eat up the credit that you have, your tax liability. So most of the time, folks aren't impacted by that, but I know occasionally that can get people if you're not paying attention. So just talk to your tax advisor, make sure that you understand whether that's impactful for you. I can throw out solar fun facts all night long.
I bet you're great at parties.
Only for a certain population of people.
My type of people. Tell us solar facts.
Let's see, what else?
We've saved Corey's next fun fact because Diane is raising her hand.
Excellent. Okay. Diane, go right ahead.
Hello, actually, it's my husband wants to ask a question. He's Doug.
So a friend of mine who's gone through a previous co-op told me that he was able to pick the amount of efficiency of the individual panels. In other words, he could use a higher efficiency panel just given the way his roof worked and how much power he wanted to generate.
Mhm.
So is this installer going to offer a set of a choice of panels, or is it just one?
Kimberly, you want to take that one?
Yeah. So we have a base price, and then we also have a price for upgrades. So this installer that we chose has also panels where you can upgrade to. And if you choose to go with an upgraded panel that has better efficiency, then you can choose those panels. And this also will be in the bid sheet or in the proposal.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great question.
Oh, I have a question. I just thought of one. So when people are doing EV charging stations, is there a separate set of incentives, like state rebates and things that apply to the charging station itself, separate from the solar?
This is an errant question I should know the answer to, but I actually don't. There is an incentive for Pepco, I think, that is not available anymore, but I'm going to actually punt that to Kimberly if you have that answer.
Yeah, well, I didn't know. Someone did tell me about the Pepco, but I heard that they ran out of money. So they had Pepco was a $300 EV charging credit, but the last thing I heard is they no longer have any funds for it. Other than that, I haven't heard or found out about any EV charging credits or rebates. But if I find some, I'll be sure to let you all know.
So there's a bunch of incentives that apply to the solar panels, and then you're basically just buying a charger too.
Yeah.
Whatever it costs.
And as Kimberly said, if we find that information, that's something we can research. We should have had that answer, but I think it's just the Pepco one that we thought that is no longer available. One thing to mention, which you'll when you join the group, you'll get updates periodically from Kimberly as well. We want to make sure that we're keeping track of how things are going with people. So anytime you have questions in the group as a group member, you can always reply back and ask. If you, we're also doing check-ins with the installer once a week, just to make sure things are going smoothly. It's a good way for us to make sure folks don't, fall through the cracks if if they're trying to get a hold of somebody and they need some support or they have questions. So we're just there to sort of make sure the experience is as smooth as possible. So that's something that Kimberly will do on group members' behalf while this group is operating.
And also, I wanted to say that if people look on our Facebook page on the events link, we have a lot of the upcoming info sessions, as well as we have an EV charging info session coming up. I believe it's July the 9th. I'm just going by memory, but if you check our Facebook page, all the information should be on there. And I'll be sending out emails, and I'll post it on the listserv as well, so you'll get the exact date and time where we're having the that information or that information session.
One more fun fact for you. Solar United Neighbors co-op members also get a 50% discount on SREC brokerage fees. So at the end of the process, if you it's not, we don't take any fee or anything from it. It's just a benefit we offer to people. But Sol Systems is one of the brokers out there. So if you decide you want to use that broker, there is a discount they've made available to our members.
Are they offering both, what do you call it, solar SREC future? Can you buy them? Can you sell them all at once at the beginning, or do you also have the option to sell them over time?
They used to do that in Maryland, and I think they may have taken that offering off. But I'll see if we can find an answer for you while we're on the phone here. I mean, on the webinar.
Anyone who's curious.
Yeah, it's going to be, it'll be on their website. But I believe the company that got selected uses them as their sort of default. So co-op members, I don't think need to do anything special in order to take advantage of that. We send a list to the provider, to the company, just to make sure that they know that that's available. I do want to stress though, you can choose your own SREC broker. You don't have to use the one that the installer is suggesting. You have control over that.
And just to explain to anyone who's still listening about how that, so, we worked really hard to pass strong clean energy legislation in Maryland, which requires the utility to purchase solar renewable energy credits from Maryland solar panels, panels located in Maryland. And so for each 1,000 kilowatt hours of energy your panels produce, you can sell this SREC, solar renewable energy credit, to the utility according to a fixed schedule of what they will be worth. So, but sometimes brokers will, even though they are only generated over time as your panels produce energy, sometimes some brokers make it possible to sell them all up front, that all the SRECs your panels will ever create, you can sell up front at the beginning and get, and as these things tend to work, they take off the risk, and you get a little less per SREC than you'd get if you sold them over time, but you get that money up front at the beginning, and it's a way to help pay for your panels. So if that was what I was asking about, is that kind of, I forget what is the technical term, Corey? Like
it's like an upfront,
forward selling.
Yeah, upfront contract. I just checked. Solar Systems doesn't offer that in Maryland right now. They have what's called an annuity, which is a fixed price, but happens over time, over a certain time period. I think it's 3 years. So other brokers may, but it's unlikely given the market. So you can either sell them one at a time, what they call the spot market price, or you can lock in a price for a certain time period. Again, don't worry about those details. If your brain is melting at this point, we'll come back to that, and we'll have all sorts of info that we'll share, later on in the process. So I think we've exhausted all the questions here.
But have we exhausted your fun facts?
I got to keep some in reserve. Those are all the major ones, I think, that are relevant for now. But if anybody wants to play Stump Solar United Neighbors, send us a message. We will be perfectly happy to try to find you an answer. We are stumpable, but we are curious.
Unless anyone comes out of the woodwork with questions while I'm talking, I think this is a great place to wrap up. It was wonderful. This was a wonderful time, and we had about 30 people on the line with us, and a lot of folks. You'll have to tell me how many folks signed up, but I think we grew the co-op tonight.
I could probably
with gratitude
tell you
and
that before we
appreciation
sign
to
off.
everyone.
Mm-hmm. Thank you all for your.
So meaningful.
Yeah. And thank you for your comments in the chat with your motivations and for asking such good questions. It was really nice to feel like we were all together and be engaged by you.
Thank you all.
It looks like we signed up like 5 or 6 people during the meeting.
Okay. Hopefully people we can send everyone the link again tomorrow. Gratitude and appreciation. Have a good evening.
Likewise.
Great. Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.